all about my second year MBBS under 20 minutes. And one word describing this year, you ask? Adbhuta, meaning amazing times 100. No longer in first year MBBS, people. I was officially part of what you would call the next level. Little did I know, Aisiri, Siri, we're all the same people, mind you, that this year was going to be filled with inner conflicts, travel, humongous struggles with pharmacology, or even the fact that by the end of this year, 10 people from my college in Silvassa would be visiting and exploring my native Mysuru. All I knew, mind you, was that second year would be much more challenging. And also, the fact that Aisiri Bhat was actually becoming a senior, and our juniors would start addressing us passive-aggressively, mind you, as ma'am and sir. September, the first month as a second year MBBS student, and in retrospect, this was literally the only normal month of the year. Why, you ask? Just keep watching and you'll find out why. Arriving 1 week late to college, I had a simple formula created in my head on how to survive second year MBBS. It was derived from the same old advice that my parents always give, and also the many helpful YouTubers out there. All I had to do was create a set of habits and stick to them throughout the year. Then voila, I wouldn't face any mental struggles whatsoever. But formulae always have exceptions, because the next day was the Ganpati Visarjan. So forget being mundane. I just managed to unlock a whole new level of Aisiri on that day. But I was not going to give up so easily. I wanted to implement this new formula. So for the next 20 days of this month, I would wake up at 5 a.m., would go for morning walks, and would be so consistent on YouTube that people were shocked. And about postings, you ask? I was just as enthusiastic about it as I was back in first year of dissection, because I would run behind seniors, ask questions, barge my way into the dressing room to give a hand, and I tried to use all the tuta-futa Hindi that I had learned to make the patients understand and take good history taking. But this was obviously not going to last forever, because with the fact that Navratri was coming around the corner, getting selected for the RSP health camp, and also my brother being one of the lucky ones in securing tickets for Coldplay January, looks like there was going to be a break in the monotony after all. Moving on to October, and this is when things started to change a little bit, and I realized that maybe second year was going to be sort of different. In retrospect, October for me was literally 3 parts. 1, the phase of Navaratri. With the limited steps of Garba that I have managed to pick up a year ago, to people literally coming up to me and asking me to teach them, I had so much of fun. We also went to Surat, and although I thought of myself to be a Gujarati at this point, let me tell you, at Kesariya Navaratri 2.0, every time I managed to learn their insane Garba steps, they would change it, and I would get punched in the face. Now, post Navaratri, the need to come back to academics and a routine became clear. But just when things started to settle in, it was part 2. It was time to pack my bags and go to the health camp, RSP, Rural Sensitization Program in Udaipur. The 4 days of activities, observations, learnings, discussions, and the amazing friends that I was able to make over there, certainly going to cherish them and the goal that I learned forever. Returning back to college and its daily schedule after being exposed to so much of gold was certainly a challenge for me. But there was no need to even try to opt for normalcy, because just 4 days later, it was part 3, to go home. So this was all about October, having a mixture of literally everything. But now we move on to November, wherein I relived my childhood memories and also thought about them. November, from going midnight cycling with my brother who had newly shifted to Mumbai, to being able to get a glimpse of the Chhath Puja, November was certainly an active month. Now, I always consider myself to be sort of robotic when it comes to nostalgia. But this time, looking back at all of my childhood memories, the dances, the weird faces, and the innumerable speeches that I used to give, I was really craving for my childhood innocence. So on Children's Day, I was kind of pretty wistful. But anyways, news of our first internal exam to be held in the next month was all that I needed to be shaken back into academics. It also helped that we had these kind of group study sessions that I was part of, but they were very limited. So third year people, let's continue that, okay? The last month of the year, December, but also the most significant one in understanding that yes, Hostel is my second family. The first 15 days of the last month of 2024 was honestly just typical MBBS hell. Like every day was just me struggling to somehow cover the syllabus, and it involved me scrambling across pages over pages just to save my academics. When the room stopped providing me the ambience to study, the corridor did. And when the chairs weren't comfortable enough, we didn't stop there. Instead, we brought out pillows, socks, and alongside mugs over mugs of coffee, we somehow made it through this inevitable exam season. Just for you to imagine the amount of mental damage that was caused by these exams, our entertainment was literally throwing orange peels at 3:30 a.m. And I swear that there is truth in the statement, people extract entertainment from your pain. Like literally the hours that I spent ranting, that I felt exhausted and I felt dumb, useless while studying pharmacology, well, that video just shot up with so many views and it literally became viral. So in a way it was a win-win, but yeah. Now when I tell you that Aisiri sometimes has these massive eureka moments at the worst times possible, I am not at all lying. Like just before my micro practical exam, I entered a completely different zone for 30 minutes, wherein once that episode was over, in my head, I had framed what some people would generously call a master plan. Yes, we were gonna play Secret Santa. But not just any Secret Santa, it was going to be Hostel special. हम सेम जगह आए हैं शॉपिंग करने.
But I just don't like this idea. मैं बोल नहीं पा रही हूँ मुझे क्या चाहिए.
Now if there's one thing that Secret Santa taught me, it was this. Of course, you will find your second family when you shift to a hostel. Like no matter how different your lifestyles are, your cultural differences, beliefs or routines, you will find your people. You just need to be patient and go with the flow. 2025 had just downright zoomed into vision, and for no particular reason, I just felt so low, lonely, gloomy and fed up. Yeah, it's contrast to my voice, you know. Like for real, for the first 7 days of the new year, I found myself having to put in so much of effort to have a conversation with someone. Self-irritation was reaching its peak and I just felt very conscious about myself and my surroundings. Now, I don't know if it's normal to kind of fall into that slump, but if you're in one, know that you will come out of it eventually. You just need to be patient and have trust in yourself. And yeah, slowly you'll get used to the beauty of having your own company once again. It's not that deep, people, because fast forward to one of the best, if not the best experiences ever. I'm talking about Coldplay, people. Like I have a whole video about it, but if I was to describe this magical experience in one word, it would undoubtedly be enchanting. But of course, MBBS does take its own course, and by this time of the academic year, PSM postings had started and we were taken on field visits to Red Cross, to Akshay Patra and so many more. And just when the library had started to occupy a part of my routine, it was time to bunk classes and go to
Magica!
And it doesn't stop there, people, because just a week later, the next massive event popped up. A wedding! Yes, you heard it right. Being part of a completely different culture has always made me treasure curiosity and become exposed to them. So attending a Gujarati style wedding was truly one of my bucket list items.
I am feeling little tired, but I enjoyed a lot. That is a lot. Yes, that is where the tiredness comes.
But soon after, I knew it was time to put the brakes and settle down and actually start studying. Not for exams per se, but at least to do justice to my course. Okay, so I never really consider February to be an actual month. As stupid as it sounds, I always felt that being a month of just 28 days, it gets over in just a flash, that you realize how time just flies by. But the highlight of this month was obviously that the Saguvana family made their way to Silvassa, and my dad became known to all of my friends. The family arrival extended into the third month of the year, whereby taking 4 days leave from college, we went to visit the Statue of Unity, departing from my family and returning to the exhausting yet beckoning syllabus of MBBS was certainly a teeny tiny bit disheartening, but inevitable because second internals were just round the corner. And although I locked into my so-called beast mode, I could not save myself in pharmacology this time. Sad, I know, but it was certainly a very much needed reality check for me. April, the month where I turned 19, fell into the bushes whilst trying to be the best fielder out there and also going to Daman on a long weekend. April ended with me going home carrying Katsang in my bag with the hopes of making what some people might state as a comeback. But in retrospect, that is not quite what happened. Okay, I always regretted how my attendance in first year always managed to stay above 90% when all I needed was a minimum of 75%. So this year, having made vigorous calculations, I stayed at home in May for a total of 21 days. I know people insane, but it's a secret, okay, between the two of us. But when I think of it, was I really at home chilling with my cats, dogs and just having ghar ka khana every single day? No. When I think of it, in reality, I was attending functions over functions in my villages. Marriages, thread ceremonies, jatre, you name it. Aisiri was there. June, I think we can all agree it's time to settle down a little bit. Now, first year studious Aisiri was back in the zone because the reality became quite literally do or die. Waking up at 4 a.m. every day, watching videos whenever possible, doing line by line study of Robbins, Apurva Shastri and all the rest became the new routine for Aisiri. My reward at the end of it all would be an episode of House MD. And would you believe it? The thing that all of us had manifested from the first year of MBBS, the topmost item on my bucket list and on our bucket list was actually becoming true. Yes, you guessed it right. 10 tickets to Mysuru have been confirmed. So now that I was having a newly found motivation, that is the Mysuru trip, studies started to hike. You could find me in the library from 9 to 9. Although let's not forget the post-lunch 2-hour laughing and ghar ka khana sessions that I would have with the others. But prelims came into the picture and having to manage the second year subjects was certainly a task and things did go haywire, but I managed all right, I guess. Post prelims, it was study holidays and having no intention to get back into the cave of loneliness, boredom and slumps that I faced back in first year by not going home, I was out and on the first train back to Mysuru the day microbiome practicals got over. And I had massive study plans, y'all. Like, I had a whole suitcase filled with all kinds of second year MBBS material and ideas on how I would revise each subject at least 5 times before the university exams. Well, did that happen, I hear you ask? Not at all. But in my defense, I did not take into account how home is just home. And without the visual pressure of seeing people racking and rotting their brains out in the library, it certainly was hard for me to stay in line with my so very incredibly amazing and spectacular timetable. मैं व्यंग कर रही हूँ इधर, ठीक है? Okay, where's all my energy going? It's all draining. But how could I forget? I tried to make things work by starting a study series. But for real, the actual studying happened in the last 10 days of July when I came back to college. So third year, Aisiri, are you gonna go home? And that's how we've reached the last month of being a second year MBBS student. And of course, the university exams of just 3 subjects had to be ridiculously spread over the entire 31 days because that's just how they work. Although narrating very extensively my entire second year MBBS whilst being in third year right now makes it seem to be very long, let me tell you in reality, I can never get over just how all of these moments, the mundane, the bizarre, the valuable and the most embarrassing moments of this year, I could make a whole video on that. But they all just kind of like slip away like sand. But before I become all emotional and enter into deep philosophical Aisiri right now, which I am leaning towards, the story does not end there, not at all. How could you even think of that? It became quite next to impossible to study for microbiology paper 2 when all of us knew that in just 24 hours we would be on a 30-hour long train journey to my home for 10 days. Like, what? Boy, I could make a whole video about this trip, and I'm seriously thinking about switching professions to become a travel agent or something, you know. But hangover effect after Mysuru was extremely real, and not even spamming my Insta could get us out of the fogginess that this trip had thrown us into. But life always does have its own plot twist, doesn't it? Because in just 3 days, we had to give our university practicals. So somehow forcing and stomping my way into the library and trying to receive all the knowledge that was buried beneath the newly formed trip happenings, these days passed as well. It's honestly so hard for me to believe right now that 2 years of MBBS have passed on for me, and I am now a third year MBBS student. So to actually sit back and recollect all of those memories was just so refreshing. Like, I never ever thought that as an MBBS student, my year could be so eventful. And even when so many things were happening at once, like if you've seen how January was or how October was for me, I was moving like the whirlwind, but I was never able to process it at that time. And having to manage it with academics, with YouTube and all of that, I could just not sit back and just imagine how my life is leading. So to actually get that opportunity from the past 3 days and just go through every single page of my diary and relive those moments, it just makes me feel very grateful. And I also hope you enjoyed how I made this storytelling. It was very therapeutic. Like, I am not that creative, but I was cutting these things, putting it, pasting it, and taking it in this angle, that angle, and just seeing 1 year of videos of myself and with my friends. Wow, a very nice time I had. Now, if you like this video, you can come back next week for more Time Out With Aisiri, and it feels so weird for saying that because boy, my last video was 50 days ago. I was quite busy. If you've seen this video, you would understand what was happening in my life. But I will be more consistent from now on. And as a third year MBBS student, a year later, we'll have another video recounting third year MBBS as well. But that's it for now, and come back next week for more Time Out With Aisiri. Bye!